Good afternoon to you, our dear esteemed viewers. Welcome back to this episode of the Youth Roundtable. My name is Douglas Onen, and today I'm joined by a distinguished lady and gentlemen who will help us unpack the conversation and put perspective to it. Today we're discussing the current political landscape, but also the National Unity Platform's decision to join IPOD. So in no particular order, allow me to introduce my guests, but also give them the chance to say hello, and then we dive straight into the conversation. Let me start with Mr. Himbaza Collines. You are a legal associate at Navasa and company advocate. So most welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas. Good afternoon, viewers. As Douglas put it, I'm Himbaza Collines, a legal associate at Navasa. I'm so much grateful to be in this show, and I think we shall discuss something that will move us to the next.
Thank you. Yes, right next to Collins, we are joined by the usual suspect, Ivan Masawi. Ivan Masawi is a youth aspirant for Eastern region from Forum for Democratic Change. Very happy to have you here once again, Ivan.
Yes, thank you, our viewers. Good afternoon to you all. I personally want to appreciate Drake and the team, and I take this juncture to welcome our viewers to this particular discussion of the Youth Roundtable. I'm so grateful being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, and I must say that congratulations on being successfully nominated. That's a huge milestone. We're wishing you all the best and fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Kojjo Sarah, for joining us here, law student.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting me. I'm actually excited for this opportunity, considering I'm a very patriotic Ugandan, and I'm glad to participate in the show.
Thank you. Last but not least, we're joined by Mr. Mbabazi Bushobozi. I hope that's the right pronunciation.
You got it. Good afternoon, our viewers. It's an honor to sit amongst the great people here, and I'm excited, I think, to share this space with them and address you.
Thank you. Ivan, allow me to start with you. You're the usual suspect, and currently that you're... I'll start with you. Don't mind. You have been successfully nominated. We have presidential campaigns going on. The MPs have also now been successfully nominated and soon to start their campaigns. We have the National Unity Platform wanting to join IPOD due to various reasons. There's just so much going on in this short period of time as we head towards 2026. And today's conversation is really open-ended. We are looking at the current political landscape. But in us doing so, I want us to categorically look at specifically that angle that affects we as young people, but also project into the future. So in your introductory remarks, I'm just interested in you trying to assess the current political landscape and how it is affecting us young people, whether 2026 will be one that will possibly be one of peaceful elections, or one that is also we are yet to experience some sort of bloodshed as well.
I never did literature, but I like how broad the question is. It could cover a page or two. I don't know where to start it from, but I'm a Ugandan and I live to the reality that what goes in Uganda is what we feel. The country in the previous week was under parliamentary nominations for directly elected MPs and special interest groups. Those include workers, elderly, and the young people, who most of us below 30 in this country still belong. It is a process that is a function under our laws and our constitution. It mandates the Electoral Commission in Chapter 6, I think Article 60 and 61. The Parliamentary Elections Act, that is CAP 117, guides on how parliamentary nominations shall be carried out. So, the biggest story from my side is that Parliament has closed 527 placements, and of those 10 are from the UPDF, so it leaves to around 517. But the directly elected candidates in the country alone were close to 4,000, if I'm not mistaken. So 4,000 people will compete for around 400, for around 300 slots. We see women. I don't have the actual figures, but looking at Uganda's parliamentary nominations, they are just like any other country struggling to use politics for its purpose. Whenever you see politics attracting too many people, there is a problem, or they are running away from a problem. Because there is being a problem, there is running away from a problem. So it shows how attractive politics in Uganda is. I don't know if because of job scarcity, if it's because of its package, if it is because of its remuneration, or if it is because of its advantages and influence on how you conduct yourself as a citizen. So with that, I see that we can't discuss the political landscape and skip nominations. Personally, I was as special interest group, especially youth who are funny. For example, for my constituency, I had 5 opponents. They all went on day 1. I was scheduled for day 2 alone. On day 1, 4 of them were sent away because they never had enough requirements. Me who had been given a plain day on Saturday alone, when I came for my time alone, I found the 4 have returned with their parents, lawyers, what. And really, by the time someone wants to be an MP, but he needs to be escorted by the parents to go and negotiate that his things are right, what? It is the country we have, but with the two excessive literacy levels, the digital landscape that is also being used to be part of a support tool in administration and running processes like those of the EC. I would expect that the process has gained more transparency but also credibility. I never expected to see that a youthful person is also forging signatures. A youthful person is also impersonating delegates, because these are the people you come with. They check their IDs, you see them on the screen, they sign and you go away. But I was really upset seeing that we already have young people who think even just nomination is impersonation. They will forge around. I saw some news where a candidate somewhere in Mubende was arrested that he forged the receipt for nomination for 3 million. You want to be a chief fraudster and be go to parliament, really forging a receipt. So there were vices, but from a young person's view, I saw that this event was a success. I saw Electoral Commission boost closing, collecting to around 4 billion shillings out of the process. I don't know if that shows that it is a good business or a bad one, but it remains a discussion that my fellow colleagues can also contribute. So that is what I can give from my assessment.
Thank you. From your assessment, very key things stand out for me. One, the issue relating to the people that have been attracted to politics in the last 10 years. 2021, we are seeing a couple of young people getting
These
so much
people were
interest.
discussing Abraham Rose here. All those people have got interest in politics because they have looked dramatic. You can't tell that parties are bringing certain category of candidates, and people like him who feel they have money, they have what, can feel. I think politics was also determined for certain purpose, not a group. Don't be right that it has a group, but a purpose. So the whole question should be: are the people going there going in the interest of the purpose of service, or they are going in the purpose because it is a hot selling business?
On that note, Collins, purpose of service, or is it a hot selling cake? Because from where I sit, the leadership void in this country, particularly for parliamentary seats and other positions, is void. And there are very many loopholes. This current parliament it is the most educated parliament, but of course it is categorized as among the worst performing parliaments Uganda's had in its history. So the question is, are people attracted for service? Are people attracted to the drama, the money, and just the pomp that comes with holding those positions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas, and the team, and the viewers. Actually, to me, when I look to our parliament right now, our parliament would be a house that would qualify to be a house of representatives. I think in the country, we need now to amend that from being parliament to house of representatives, so that the people who go there, they understand that they are not on their own, but they're representing people on the grassroots. So it is a house for service.
But isn't that already the prerequisite of parliament to do with representation? So how would that be different from the current system that we have?
Yeah, it is, as you said, it is. But I think the people we send to that house forget that that's a house for representing the last people on the dot, and even those on the higher stages. So, as my colleague put it across, people tend to look on so and so went there last time in the concluded term. He bought a car, he bought a house. Let me also go there and also make money from there. They don't look on the service. And I will try to tell you that our parliament somewhere, somehow, we don't need to look on the highlight of qualification or education on their status, because the constitution is clear that for you to be a member of parliament, you should be have completed the advanced level of education, which is senior 6, and maybe an additional to that, an equivalent to that, then, and you should be of age. But right now, we are finding a challenge that the people who go there, whom we nominate ourselves, and the people whom we vote ourselves, tend to reach there and forget that they need to do the service to this person I've sent them there.
So whose problem is it? Is it the problem of the people we send there also, or is it a shared problem and responsibility that the people who also participate in the voting process elect people who do not represent their views because they possibly sold their vote?
And now the problem will still go on the grassroots of itself, that we have tended, or we have lived to make our politics be commercialized. That even on nomination, someone to be signed, to be given a signature that have nominated you go to EC, he's bribed and given money. So we no longer assess the people we are sending, because we have lived a life that we know he has gone to parliament. Us sending him there, he gives us something, may have no problem, as long as I've written something, 5K or 2K from him. So we end up nominating people who are even incompetent to serve us, because they have ended up bribing us with the 2,000 for you to give a signature. Then at the end, on the day of voting, he gives you 10K and end up voting.
Let me hold you there.
No.
From your submissions, I see there's a huge problem, or there's a gap in the system that relates to civic awareness, which of course is a prerequisite of the Electoral Commission. Let me come to you, Mbabazi. The submissions of Masawi highlighted, of course, he talked about attraction of many people to politics, and I pushed that question further to Collins to highlight the issue. Is it service that is attracting people to get interested in the process, or is it other emoluments that come with the positions that these individuals hold? And Collins goes ahead and highlights numerous factors in relation to that. But bottom line, there is, from his submissions, a problem in the system that relates to lack of civic awareness with the masses. And of course, the Electoral Commission is charged with the mandate to disseminate information that informs people's mindsets. Masawi, in his submissions, highlighted a couple of electoral malpractices in terms of aspirants forging signatures, aspirants forging receipts for nominations, among others. So in trying to understand the role of the Electoral Commission in this process, because we are trying to understand our political landscape. So it's needless to say, we need to underpin the EC and have a conversation around that. Has the Electoral Commission done its role and mandate in this process in trying to deliver us a free and fair election towards 2026?
Thank you so much, Drake. I'll kick it off with that question, very pertinent in all its sense. Now, the question of whether the Electoral Commission has done enough or what it should do entirely starts at the head of it. I mean, we have Justice Bebakama in all his glory, a cadre of the NRM. So the question now becomes, where does his loyalty lie? In civic awareness or in protecting the gains of the man who has appointed him. And in response to that, in addition to that, then the Electoral Commission has quirky leaders, because the problem that Himbaza was trying to highlight is that the moral and social fabric of this community called Uganda is dead. It's in the sewers, and we need to reimagine and reinvent ourselves, because like he was saying, Masawi was saying, a young man or woman at that has come and they have to be nominated, but they do not have the basic skills, the basic brains to help them advance through the challenges they're going through as they're being nominated. So if these are the people we're preparing to be future leaders, then the problem is we're going to end up with similar leaders, the same category of the people we have here, people who are, they're brain dead, I would like to say.
So would you blame the young people who, in your own words, called them brain dead, because they have gone through a system that has manufactured them to be in that way?
I wouldn't want to put the entire blame on the young kids, but it's a societal problem. I mean, if we're to juxtapose Mr. Obote's regime, it raised a quality of people. Actually, some of them are the people who came into the post-Obote, post-Amin government. These people were education-oriented. The class of people we had then was so pristine. But the class of people we have now is Chidandali culture, like I'd want to call it. The Sarah is tall type of thing. It's nice. I like it that Mr. Luzi is vying for that position. But the question is, why are you putting Sarah is tall, and why is it your election mantra? So it speaks first of all to the type of leaders and speaks to the type of people. What do they vote? They vote vibe, they vote mantras, they don't have a strategic thought.
It's more like sensational voting.
Yes, I would like to call it that.
All right, thanks for your analysis. Kojjo, the excitement that gets Ugandans up and running is what it terms as Chidandali kind of mindsets.
Yeah.
That we no longer are interested in issues that affect us, but rather get excited on mantras such as Sarah is tall. And we as a young generation, we are now the now leaders. And the problems of this nation will be upon us 20, 30 years later. But yet, unfortunately, we are still focusing on issues that do not directly affect us, but rather getting excited on issues that are not entirely related to anything to do with governance and constitutionalism. I posed a question in relation to the role of the Electoral Commission in regards to civic education. And Mbabazi highlights the fact that, you see, the Electoral Commission at the moment, they are at crossroads. You have the pinnacle of the EC in Chairman Byabakama. And of course, he's appointed by the president. He's at crossroads in trying to maintain his job, but also deliver to the masses in terms of offering free, fair, and credible elections. So my question to you is, we need to come 2026, a credible, free, and fair election. But at the same time, the EC that is supposed to grant us that is headed by a gentleman who is appointed by the president. Is it time as a nation that we possibly sort out independent mechanisms of appointing these electoral commissioners to justify, first of all, the quality of people that we need to govern, to do away with the present?
Thank you so much. That's a very interesting question. Thing is this, yeah? The Electoral Commission is supposed to be non-partisan in carrying out its duties. The law on paper is quite beautiful, actually. When you look at the law governing the Electoral Commission, you actually see these people being seemingly independent. But you can't really bite the hand that feeds you. And concerning the situation in Uganda, people are actually disillusioned. You find that we don't expect so much out of voting or out of our say, because we feel like we have not been really represented. You find that we elect people into parliamentary positions when we, as the masses, we don't even know what they're supposed to do there. You find a member of parliament offering ambulances instead of doing their role in parliament of making those, the laws, making those policies that are supposed to help the public and the masses at large, right? So you find that people no longer know the use of voting, or maybe some people actually, in the 2021 elections, when I talked to a few people, they were all like, I didn't vote because I was all like, what's the reason? What's the essence? People are going to be voted into power and they're not going to deliver anyway. And you find that politicians are always promises heaven on earth simply because you're now their key to the heaven on earth to their lives, right? And people are living in a state of disillusionment and they have forgotten the strength of actually voting or their say. So it's now more of a selfish desire. Like, if I put a person in parliament, how are they going to help me personally? They are forgetting to consider the country at large, to vote for the sake of future generations, to be architects of the future. You get? So when you find that the Electoral Commission, I'm actually proud of the actions of the Electoral Commission, because you find that many people went for the presidential card, and it was so funny that we were a spectacle to the world. People were making fun of our country and were wondering how much is it really to become a president in that country. Like, it was quite a mess. But you find that people have lost the spirit of trying to create a better Uganda, and it has now become fun. Uganda is considered one of the happiest countries in East Africa simply because we don't fight. We are more of a peaceful kind of creature. And in finding peace, I feel like it's cowardish of us. I don't know if that's even a word. Cowardly of us
to be. Coping mechanism that Ugandans seemingly using the words peace in trying to cope with the current challenges that we're experiencing.
Exactly. It can be considered a coping mechanism. Considering the things that have been happening in the elections, you find that people were shut down in one of the previous elections. Internet went off, and we are now tired. Like, Ugandans, if I'm to speak to a normal Ugandan living peacefully in their house, they just want this thing to be done with.
And then we move on.
And then we
Let
move
me
on.
just hold you there. Masawi, the root cause of the problem in my head, I'm just trying to think around multi-party dispensation. That could this be the root cause? Or is there something else that is causing what we're experiencing in this country? You see, multi-party, this country reintroduced multi-party dispensation in 2005 through a referendum after the movement system. And Ugandans were free to express themselves, to associate with various political parties. You yourself, you associate with the Forum for Democratic Change. But all these political parties at the moment are fragmented, but also other political parties are now grooming a culture of comedians in politics that are not addressing issues, but are just here to give us a good laugh, win an election, and go and sit in the floor of parliament and do entirely nothing. So can we possibly underpin these challenges to the side effects of multi-party dispensation?
I think even if it has been the movement system, is one leader overstaying in power, you would have the same kind of people who have been manipulated. The only difference between Uganda's political parties and associations like in Kovazambogo, in Makerere and Kyambogo is that they have a law in the constitution, that is the Political Party and Organization Act. But they are similar. The way you go as actually Kyambogo students and the political party, you almost work under the same restriction of one man that controls you all. Secondly, if you say a country, political parties are stakeholders whose sole responsibility is to grow leaders. The sole responsibilities of political parties is not politics, it's to nurture and give people a platform. Political parties are vehicles. I used to tell people I work with the FDC because I know its leaders. I can work with them. And they are vehicles for you to drive your potential, your aims, your aspirations to the crowd. But when political parties lose track to begin to become buses of transaction, keys of opening somewhere, become umbrellas of under the sunshine when there is no storm, right? They lose their essence. If you checked every political party, you will find it has objectives, it has a mission. Even the common man party, don't think Munyagwa is eating rice because he enjoys rice. It is giving him a platform to be known, to be respected, is guaranteed security, he can do funds. When you look at the Political Parties and Organizations Act, I think Part 4, it also gives them an advantage to the National Consultative Forum, which later on I saw you pose the question of the NUPs being excluded from benefiting from the funding. So, their number one responsibilities of parties when it's poorly performed, it leads to where people vote by accident. The reason our politics is not issue-based is not because we don't have political parties that FDC was carrying issues for so long, but because it was carrying them against M7, who will frustrate you because he doesn't want people who speak issues. He wants people who speak excitement. He wants people who wake up to raise their hands even if they never understood the bill. They don't know the motion. They don't know the move. There are MPs even who don't know themselves by name. There are only 500, but you find someone doesn't know even people they share with a committee. His interest is having mediocres, and it is what we have also accepted as a population. That you find an MP even doesn't know his friends in parliament. How can he know even his voters? Just like Assad, because voters are many. At least be knowing the people you work with. Because 500 people, I believe everybody has a storage that can know. At least if you don't know by name, you know by constituency. But because of even the conduct of some, most people go to parliament looking at the salary scale. After swearing, he sits somewhere to always write for a DFCU message or equity, somewhere under Centenary Park or somewhere. They never go there with the framers' purpose of why we needed the legislation. That someone will sit to appropriate budget, oversight, represent people, and will speak to spirits, because politics should be there to speak to spirits. That I can speak to a young group of people about the plan, and they will know the national development plan for speaks this and this. As a legislator, how do I target the aspirations of my constituents with the plan, so that when something is being done, I'm reconsidered. So as long as we have MPs, parties, the reason why political parties are even held more accountable is we also had political parties that were surviving on individuals, religions, tribes, regions, and individuals. So I think for history in Uganda, we have never had a political party that has survived on ideology and what? And issues. A party is surviving because there is an old man who keeps playing drama around to confuse this one, to carry this one from this way to this way. He has his remote and the batteries at the same time.
All right. Yes. Mbabazi, the historical context has a lot of underpinning or side effects to what we're experiencing today. Masawi highlights how our history in terms of identity politics, religion-based politics, or ethnicity-based politics influences the way political parties operate today, but also in its own self influences the quality and the types of leaders that we present. Brief context and history. In 1961, before the elections in 1961 that happened later on in April, you had the Democratic Party, which was centrally a party formed behind the precincts of fighting for the rights of the Catholics. Yeah. You have the Uganda People's Congress, which of course was predominantly Anglican. That informs the existence of DP in trying to do away with the Anglican dominance. Now, you see the link between religion-based and ethnicity brewing just from our history. Those elections happened in 1961. DP wins. In 62, because of the various reasons that were highlighted, that the elections that happened in 1961 weren't inclusive, Kabaka Yeka with UPC form an alliance. Kabaka, as you hear the name, Kabaka Yeka, the
He's
king
an
alone.
Anglican.
Because the Mengo government felt they needed to keep control of this government, agrees to side with UPC. And we see the overall winning of UPC and KY government. That is in our history. Let's put it in the local. Fast forward. You have the National Unity Platform that people are arguing at the moment, which is the predominant opposition party, to be a party that is predominantly central, but with the way it's also operating now, the nature of leaders, because it has that ghetto kind of mindset. So you're seeing patterns of identity, ethnicity carried forward, one way or the other, influencing the quality of leaders that we are presenting. So in trying to underpin multipartyism in relation to how political parties in this country are formed on grounds of ethnicity, religion, race, all that in one way still are questions we need to understand in understanding this political landscape. So as a young person, would we therefore argue that the multi-party dispensation has failed us because it has divided us in its own self on those various grounds?
Thank you, Drake. Like you started off, the historical context of this matters largely. So we see the colonial masters, I mean, before these UPC and DP come into play, these, for the white man, were ways of assuaging the anger of the natives. The white man, in allowing black people start out their own political parties, at the back of their mind, they did not have the need to educate and drive the country forward. It was a question for them of which black man will maintain our system and keep this extraction going. And that has been the genesis, the original seed. So we see UPC, which is based in religion, DP, anchored in religion, and then along comes Kabaka Eka, which is deeply rooted in ethnicity. Now, this is the template upon which 2005 lands on or builds on. I mean, from Kalinaki's book about Kanovesije, he says that the president, quote unquote, said that those who don't want to be with us in the broad-based movement system should go and start their what? Their parties. So we start off from that type of angle where first of all, the president is aggrieved by the choice of these people to live. And then these people are also doing it as a form of resistance. But I mean, like you said, the fallback position was that we were anchored in ethnicity. So looking at NUP, first of all, I wouldn't want to say it's majorly ethnic, but it carries sentiments of religion because the leader is Catholic and we've had an Anglican president for what, 40 years now. And in its early days, we saw it hobnob majorly with the Catholic side of things. And I mean, along the way, probably they fell out, but that was its machine. That is how it was built. And then ethnicity, we saw Mr. Robert in Luero recently. He made very tribalistic statements. There's a video that leaked at the NUP headquarters, singing very tribal things about Banyakore, Banyarada people and how they will go here or right or left and center. So I think from the genesis is that the people, we see the colonial master prepped up leaders, but they did not prepare the minds of the people.
So fast forward now.
Yes.
How is this affecting, one, the quality of leaders that we are grooming now in terms of young people,
Yes.
but also how is it affecting, in quotes, ideology of political parties?
So first of all, for ideology, it's a cut-across statement. These people picked up from where they left it. They've never changed. We just have a change of faces. I mean, maybe probably with Dr. Besige, we had a bit of change, I would want to say. He was not ethnic leaning or tribal leaning or religious leaning. He seemed to have a burning passion for ideology. But again, the problem in my assessment is that he was working with people who carried these undertones, and it eventually cropped up and, you know, pushed him out of the system. Now, also, we inherited a constitutional monarch that eventually became a democracy. Now, these systems of governance or of government were not organic to the people of Uganda. These were, I mean, picked and brought here and just practiced.
Copied and pasted.
Yes. Now, the problem with that is that the American people, the British people who own constitutional monarchism, and the Americans who, and Greece, of course, is that at the back end of that, people relied on the quality of a citizen who knows what they want.
Let me hold you there. Collins,
Yes.
quality. That is where the problem is now. Our current political landscape is we are fronting comedians, and that is something. It's plain comedians, people who are not talking about issues that matter. A few weeks ago, we discussed on this show political party presidential manifestos, and we made a fair share of assessment that there are practical manifestos and there are idealistic manifestos that do not even operate in our current context. But anyway, these are documents that these presidential aspirants would front there knowing Ugandans will not read and will go ahead and ride on ideas on various regions of this country on issues that they think will make them excited. So, in trying to assess and understand that these are issues that are affecting our politics today, the idea of multipartyism is something that we hoped and thought could deliver us. Masawi says even the movement system could be something that at this point could even be a challenge. So my interest at this point in time is, let's first, in you trying to also assess multipartyism, I want to bring in an interesting component in our politics, the involvement of the army, militarization of politics, which is very interesting. You see, where we see the army get involved in our history was in 1968. The Ocheng motion that went ahead and that was moved by Honorable Ocheng to condemn, they were trying to condemn Amin for the actions he was doing in Congo. Now, from that, we see Amin getting involved in 1971. Fast forward, the army has been involved in our politics throughout. Right now, we have the multi-party system, but we have a great entrenchment of the involvement of the army. In us assessing the political landscape, the involvement of the army in our politics is too grave and too deep that we may want a political transition, but it may seemingly be impossible. Let's get your assessment.
Thank you once again. Actually, before I tackle the end of the army in their politics we have right now, I would want to say, sometime I was on space with Mr. Masawi. I told him that what makes a leader is not a political party. To be a good leader, it's not because I belong to this political party. You witness, and you bear with me, witness that we've seen leaders who come independently and they're performing very well. But when time goes on and they are called on upon to join these political parties, for lack of better word, they end up being, I don't know, incompetent. I don't know what happens whenever they now shift from being independent to these political parties. I don't know the virus which is there that ends eating them up. The time they come independent, they are so solid. They have this manifesto they are putting ahead, different from this manifesto of political parties. I would say I'm privileged that I've tried to read all the manifestos, this paperwork. If this is always having some good manifesto, that one I always credit it. But on adding on that, when political leaders come in with their independent part of politics, they are good. They perform that one year, the second year, the third year, they are gone. So, as Masawi said, political parties, it is a car that we all need to be in to reach where we want to reach, but we can reach that one as even being in that car. So, this is what is bringing us problems, that we end up having, as you said, comedians in politics, yet wouldn't have been even there. And I'll attribute that sometimes that even the actual commission that is meant to assess these people, because we're the people who nominate them, because we give them signatures to go and be nominated, right? So the nomination day is like a day of fulfilling what I've got from the voters, and I'm presenting it to you that voters have seconded me. But still, we would need a neutral body to understand who is this person that is coming.
So aren't we much more like even these institutions are just ticking boxes for the sake because they're earning their money at the end of the day? Let's just tick the boxes
and that's what I'm saying.
And move on.
Because we don't assess who is who and who's going ahead and who's going to represent these people. So when this thing happens, it ends up making our politics not look the way we would want them to be. And that's why sometimes I would want to say, yes, the army get involved in that long run, because as you said, there are those politicians who come in to gear up what is taking place. In gearing up what is taking place, we end up now seeing the army being involved, like police coming in, the army coming in, because someone doesn't know why he is running for that position. Someone doesn't know why he's vying for that position. For him, he thinks, now I'm vying for this position because people are following me, have a mass following. But in the root point of it, why am I vying for this?
Let me hold you there.
Yeah.
Kojjo, I want a continuation of the involvement of the army. Something that, from the assessment of my brother Collins, we need to continuously underpin, because we have seen that the question of transition is something, for me as Douglas Onen, I am quite interested in. Because the army at this point is so entrenched in our political system that for us to have a peaceful transition with the way the army is involved in the system may seemingly be impossible. You see, for the scholars of peace and security, there is a theory that underpins or leads to conflict driving sentiments, and that is the political theory, the urge to maintain and keep power. And the army being involved in our political system, there is that seemingly interest of maintaining the power. And we are talking about, of course, our current political landscape. So, in your assessment of the involvement of the army, let's hear your view.
Oh, thank you so much. So I wanted to remind everyone that the current president right now, he's not only a president, but he's also the commander-in-chief. So the army is basically supposed to follow his lead. And one of the reasons of the army and the police at large is to maintain peace and security in the country. And it is also supposed to protect the head of state and his interests and all. And it's already too late. We already need a transition of power. We need someone new. We need a new leader who will have new ideas and ideologies in that position.
How is that feasible? Because you have the army deeply entrenched in the system.
The army.
The army is in parliament.
And
the army is in cabinet. The army right now is trying civilians.
I think you glorify
it is.
These
I feel like
rebels.
if okay, let me say this out.
These are the results. They came as rebels.
But he was a civilian in the initially. That's why he made legal notices and all. But the thing is this: if you want to hold on to power, and it is can I say a desperate move to keep power, because now you find people voting because they are afraid of a war breaking out. They are all like, he's the one in control of the army. You find that even his son is in his commander or a general in the army. So you find that people are afraid of a war breaking out, but we need a better Uganda. We need a democratic Uganda. And these are not things that are going to be brought up by words. I feel like the only way Uganda can get a peaceful change is when people stand up and raise together and they all vote, and it is really clear. But that happened recently, and it didn't quite work out. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Ivan,
Maybe Mr. Douglas.
Yeah.
To make a point home, actually, I wanted to drive it home. Is that when you hear what the president says, he says his army is competent. Why? He has tried them the time of 19. That period he was in the war. Then when he came up, he even tells you the army, they are not corrupt. That's why even I feel I can involve them in each and every stage of what? Of leadership. But ideally, which shouldn't be like that, because if an army, you're serving army, shouldn't even be involved in politics.
They are supposed to be non-partisan according to the law.
But for him, he tells you that since I tried them in the bush war and we succeeded, I've not had corruption here and left and right. I feel I should now bring them to be there to manage this. And which is not right. Because to me, I would want what he did it as by the time he was taking up the power, and by the time he has been working with them, yes, they have been loyal, they have promoted security, and as she was saying, they have done their part as the army. Now, this would be the time to leave it for the civilians and they take rid of themselves
Okay.
to see democracy working out.
I don't think it can happen like that,
I mean,
considering the army.
if they have politics.
Anyway,
Exactly.
it's all right.
Exactly.
Ivan, I'm very interested also in your thoughts of we are underpinning our current political landscape, and it would be unfair for us really to talk about all or to talk about political parties and all and neglect the involvement of the army in our system. As Collins and Kojjo have greatly discussed at length the involvement of the army in our political process, it's also important that let's hear your thoughts because they're here with us. They're here to stay. I have highlighted to you that they're in parliament with, I think, approximately 10 representatives. They are in cabinet. They're in those key positions of decision. And of course, Kojjo says it's supposed to be non-partisan. But of course, from the way we are seeing things, are they?
Greg, the most painful thing I will remember about this era was the amount of ineffectiveness that President Museveni used to brainwash us, that even us who have gone to school, we argue equivalent to border men. That is the most painful thing I will never forget about this era. How we were reduced to being as equivalent to anybody who can come up who is educated. You even made the statement that parliament is highly educated. But you see its result. With this education of Museveni, this one where Rwasande got a first class. And you expect miracles. So, coming back to your question, we forget quickly, I don't know why, that these were rebels who lost an election. They were the last and went to the bush. You people discuss elections as if you're from Europe. In Uganda, if you want to discuss true things, discuss power. This is a family that wants to stay in power. For even waste time, we discuss that there is election, there is money. In which country do you find that the Electoral Commission is collecting 4 billion shillings from the candidates, but the election is being spent on 800 billion, right? And the Electoral Commission only collected 4 billion shillings from the candidates. The government borrowed money to organize an election. We have supplementary budgets every week in parliament to organize. They spent more money on presidential candidates than what they bring on table. So the cost of leadership alone, getting leaders in Uganda may be the most expensive country on earth. To just get someone who is sensible with some little knowledge that can, you tell him you go and speak for the poor, is very expensive in Uganda. And we are always happy that President Museveni has reduced us to that.
And the members of parliament are actually voting those budgets and the supplements because they know it's benefiting them.
So
Exactly.
when we reduce a country, that we even have respect and dignity to the army, as if it has ever been our army. Because of the name UPDF, you think you have a right to find him on the way and tell him, today I want you to come and be at our gate. There are people who disturb him and he will come. These were most of the young people who are in the army today are people who went to school and never got jobs. When they were recruited, they were told they have gone to work for Uganda, but the instructions there keep a family. The army is not a block that everybody who is in the army has power. The army is who commands the army. And which law guides that? The army is like it's just like any other culture. An army is just like someone who goes to Muganda who worships Dungu and what? What Dungu instructs is what you do. You follow the chief priest. If he says this is the culture, we offer in white hens, you offer white hens.
And they have the guns.
So, the amount of brainwashing, especially that has happened on us, the cost of getting leaders alone, you've seen how the entire political landscape, people now discuss vibe. If it was not, people are asking, why are they not caning Kyagulanyi and other people challenging Museveni? We have been reduced to expect canes, to expect. For the first time, when you want to create an environment of seeing people discuss issues, people run away from issues and at least look for Sarah stole what. we had a by-election. There were people like Nsereko. He was as equivalent as Abraham Luz. Nsereko captured the attention, but you saw how our politics, the day of the election, Nsereko could not even come out of his house to say, I'm also a candidate. Given the Chiboko, which was in Kawempe, the security forces, Nsereko was nowhere on the day of voting, that even he couldn't raise 35 votes. Because they have reduced the country to ineffectiveness, that drama wins it all. We want to discuss drama, have speakers who are known for being mobilizers, dance around, have people ring fence positions, and at a cost. Drake refused it, accept it. If you want still live, be ready to pay 116 billion US dollars as public debt. We shall be here together. That is what when we are in these elections, it's not that we also want to vibe, but you need to know that Museveni can die in the night and they leave you here to pay debts, because for them, they pay themselves. There are people who will be there, but you always need to think of who is here to pay long-term consequences of the actions being made today. So when you really fellow young people that the involvement of the army is not a crime, but the army was supposed to know where its purpose is, because you can't say that because he's an army man, he doesn't have connections. The army are people from our homes. Your relatives, they just went somewhere and they were brainwashed. Because there are countries like Kenya, they have an army. Don't they change elections, the presidents every 10 years? All these countries that are changing presidents, some even have a stronger army. America has a stronger army than Uganda. But just look at the results. One army is taught upside down, the other army is taught straight. Imagine an army dealing with a man who is as stubborn as Trump. But they are there, they know the basic guidelines, boundaries, thresholds of being in the army, and they serve to what an army should serve, the interests of peace, security. But an army that comes to see that it abducts people's children, it posts money basements, an army that comes around to take alcohol and warrage over citizens, it is a challenge of governance. We don't enjoy it, but
Really.
like I've told you, we all have an equal cost. Because even if you remove that army, you won't have solved the problem. The problem is, I think you start from the head, which is the family. They have to one day, whether it will take 100 years, even the Bakwes were here, they were 10. Now it is us. They won't they go away? It is just a matter of time.
Let me just hold you there. Allow me come back to you, and I will start with you after the break. Let's just go for a short break. See you in a bit.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break. Just before we went into the break, the conversation was quite heated. We have looked at the quality of leaders, multi-party dispensation, militarization of our politics, and we hadn't yet concluded on that debate. There was a rebuttal from Mbabazi to Masawi. I'll just begin with you, Mbabazi. You had burning issues before we went into the break.
I had a brief disagreement with my brother here, Masawi.
Yeah.
He keeps on arguing that the army is not a Ugandan outfit, it belongs to a particular person, and I mean the greater extended or nuclear family. And my argument is that the army belongs to the Ugandans. But the underlying factor is that from the day that Amin was used by Obote to overthrow His Excellency Frederick Mutesa, it was the genesis of our problems. It was a telltale sign that the quality of citizens, because for a person to elect a leader, they must be able to be visionary enough to decipher comedy from vision. Now, the Ugandan citizens lack that. They have the urgency, but they lack the ability to decipher these things. And every time the army keeps involved in our politics, it is a call to the citizens to tell them,
The national army.
The national army, yes. The national army keeps on, I mean, by the fact that they're in parliament, it is more, I mean, the president says when he was arguing for their presence in the parliament, I mean, his argument was that these guys are not going to say anything, they're going to be there as listening posts. But after listening, what happens? It is a show that the civilians and citizens have a particular ceiling they've not hit, and the army keeps intervening to maintain that balance. That is why we have them in food security.
Where they even beat
all that talks
voters.
to my pain. We pay 10 people to just go and listen. They do nothing. We feed them, bless them to just listen and raise up their hands as if one person can do, and these ones who are representing them are also not part of the very people they protect. So whether I want you to be on, I think you need to be in politics enough. You run somewhere and the army deals with you. The day you know it doesn't know it works for one man. Because when you look at these NUP boys abducted, Moses twist, don't take it that is drama. These people know this force is theirs. It's unturned from a rebel group that began from Tanzania, somewhere, Kabamba. They have just changed in it's just like the same thing as political parties in Uganda. They just changed that now the movement system when Time 7 remained alone, he killed all his opponents. Is why they keep term limits away, age limit now, let's go back to this. Whenever you have that, okay, I want to believe that maybe when you go to a neighboring country and see something, you may raise your expectations. And I think I've always raised my expectation that I'm equal to a Kenyan in deserving better, which has not been the case. But on the issue of UPDF, even you saw the amendment of the act, you can't have a national army targeting citizens. You can't say you're a national army when you make laws targeting to break someone's leg because he has tried to wear a boot like yours. After in a national army, with your friends you call national, if they found you in the new law, they are supposed to go away with you. Because you're wearing. Is that a national army that wants to ring fence everything, that being a soldier in a country, you're trying to infiltrate their superiority? What is national? National is everything. These are people Ugandans dress, Ugandans feed, but if they are always trying to set that being a Ugandan and being a soldier, you should never at any one point bring yourself to saying you're seeking anything military to serve your political interests. The whole issue should that we be here as Ugandans and we consume this. We consume the army and we consume the politics. So if we see it as a national army, then you're consuming the national army. For us, we see it as an army, as individuals. Those who are trying to prepare for 2026, you should have a side book where you know the national army may cane me, the national army may arrest me, the national army may switch off internet and be on the roads.
All in the name of peace.
Yeah, it is a national army
and security.
It is security, and security only canes those who
because voters can also get violent. You find that in Kawempe elections, voters got violent and they wanted to run away with the boxes, and it was because of those security operatives that were there on the scene that actually maintained the votes that were there, that even people had to vote in that referendum. So it is all to maintain peace.
Because of his levels of brainwashing, that even when you don't agree with him, you're violent, you're wrong, you're supposed to be beaten, you're supposed to be abducted. I don't believe there will be any Ugandan who will ever brainwash a big population.
Would you prefer a violent election?
Okay, what was violent?
They are there to keep the security, to make sure everyone is.
No, like when you say violent, say that they banned entire they did this, but people showing up in big numbers to support an opposition candidate is violence.
Wanting to run away with the boxes of the votes.
If I may maybe to respond to my brother Ivan, believe or not, on the other end, even us, it's not all of us, some Ugandans, we tend to be violent on the other side. Believe it or not. To the extent that even you meet a soldier, I've witnessed it, and these men are deployed on the road.
But have you asked yourself?
So the role of the police,
have
the
you
role of
asked yourself the question?
suspended.
Why are some Ugandans violent to that extent?
By the way, by the time I can be on the side of Mr. Mbabazi, I think. By the time the soldiers, the national army or the police is being told to leave the barracks.
Differentiate police and police is supposed to be here. Even this studio deserves a police officer. I don't know people you see an army person as ordinary. Differentiate police and army.
Protect the country as a whole.
Together hand in hand. That in case when even sometimes when the situation is intense, the army should be involved, right? And I've witnessed it, some of Ugandans or some of us who are civilians, we tend to behave wrongly in the way that even meet him and tell him, man, you're putting on the uniform I buy for you. I've seen it on that road. It's called what? Kavule Road. Guys are even on the car, they are moving, they might be patrolling, and arrogant as Ugandans, we are throwing words to them. You stage a group that you cannot pass over. You know, I'm coming. To me sometimes what happens. Let me come to you. What happens sometimes, Mr. Ivan? We should believe it that sometimes we are indoctrinated by where we belong sometimes. To the extent that if right now you would go to Kavule, let me use that example, which never even used to happen in Najana and Kumbi. If you go to Kavule right now, you'll find 10 young, useful age men putting on barrels, putting on something with ranks and whatsoever, and those guys with even batons pointing to the people passing. What does that mean?
Okay, so just on that analysis that so would you blame these young people? Because you see, what is happening
before the coming of NUP? So people are discussing the army after. I think I'm very old. People are discussing the army after the coming of NUP. I saw the army before the coming of NUP.
The army did you dirty.
Mr. Drake, as I was trying to put it, yeah, I know. But when you look how it used to be and how it is now, there is a difference. At line now it is intensifying because I know maybe we are desperate for the transition. That's what we want. We are desperate for that. But they will even put it across that we need this transition. We do it badly, and in doing it in that way, it makes also these people feel. It's like there's something. It's like you're pushing someone on the wall sometimes.
Action and reaction.
Yes, those two things. Thank you. Action and reaction tend to
be equal, and
then that friction.
There's definitely a conflict driving sentiment for the urge of change. So let's just hold you there. There was a point that you were trying to make before we had the debate going through. Mbabazi.
So I was still addressing Masawi. Masawi claims and puts it across that, oh my God, Mr. Himbaza here is only talking about NUP, but you know that in the fabric of FDC, first of all, allegedly, you guys had a rebel group in the Congo before Kano Besige took over, and you guys took on a political form.
And those people who are in that army, Mugisha Muntu was a commander, so I know what I'm talking about.
I agree with you.
Why didn't they follow him, their commander, and serve a family?
Because that is not what is expected of a soldier. So Mr. Masawi here talks about violence. What Mr. Drake was asking, the capacity for Ugandans to perpetrate horizontal violence, citizen against citizen, is so high. We've seen videos of citizens throwing stones at soldiers. We've seen a video in the western part of this country where citizens hacked a police officer armed at that and beheaded him. He had a gun, he tried to shoot, not to shoot other people, but to shoot up and scare them. And these people still went on and beheaded this police officer. It is not a single incident. These are small incidences. We've seen it in Kasese. So the ability for Ugandans to perpetrate violence against each other is so high. So that is what necessitates for the army. You've seen it at your party. You hired bodyguards to beat up journalists. in the recent past, a year or two. They beat up a New Vision young lady, intern journalist. She lost tooth and she was crying all over the news. And this is the fabric. I mean, at the opposition side and in the incumbent side, you guys thrive on violence. I've interacted with Mr. Robert's convoy, and these guys just stop you out of the blue. They don't even have a right for leeway, but they stop you in the blue and hit your car, and when you try to move, they just shout and hurt, insult.
With Museveni's convoy as well.
He's a president.
Okay.
And I've seen him try. Every time he has knocked down a cow, a goat, he has tried to compensate the equivalent of what he has knocked down. So my argument is that the army is in tandem with the people because the people are militaristic. You can see NUP took on a militaristic approach to these things.
All right, let me just
soldiers.
let me just intervene and try to make this conversation a little bit on an equal playing field. You see, there is a conflict-driving sentiment among the citizens, and that conflict-driving sentiment can be termed as the urge for change. We want change. People want change, right? People want to see a change in leadership. The same face for over 40 years leads for people to become, to develop that feeling, that conflict-driving sentiment, to go against the army. But also seemingly, the status quo doesn't favor the incumbent in a way that we have seen how much they have been involved in the process. One example, November 18th, 2020, 2019, 2020. 2020. What happened in Kampala, over 50 people were killed. Now, such scenarios and such examples doesn't favor the incumbent. So if you have conflict-driving sentiments in the citizens who are demanding for change, the army, the constitution says this is supposed to be the People's Defense Forces, representing the interests of the individuals. The argument of Masawi is that the army at the moment is representing the interest of a family. And they're trying to maintain power for the family. You'd argue otherwise, that yes, the army is independent, the army is protecting Ugandans, which we have seen them do so. We have seen them even help internationally. They have been in Somalia, they are, they're in Congo. Those are examples that could possibly exonerate them. But they also have incidents, actually, which are more than those examples that exonerate them. For people to go ahead and act in that militaristic way against them. So when we talk about the militarization of politics, my interest is when shall the army, therefore, not even the army, when shall the head of the government, who heads the army, draw the line and say, you know what, this is it, represent the interest of Ugandans and not the interest of me? Because I have had people who are in the forces, they preach to them that the head of the government is the person they are protecting. I don't know how true that is, but those are allegations that people say that is how they train, or when they're trying, that's how they train the army. So this is the conversation as young people, in my opinion, ought to have. When shall we then have that independent army that represents the views of the people? You saw what happened in Madagascar. Yeah, the army sided with the citizens of Madagascar. Shall we have a Uganda whereby the army sides with us when we say enough is enough? Mbabazi.
Yes, I again, to start off with that Madagascar thing, I think the army has national interests at heart, and I'm certain that if the need arises, that they need to side with the people, if at all the conditions and the people are right, then that will happen. That's what I think. I think the army stands with the people of Uganda and it advances the interests of the people of Uganda. And also about those army officers who allegedly are taught to pay lifetime allegiance to the president. The president in the Bush War was the leader of General Mugisha Muntu, as he quoted. He was the leader of General Tinefuza David, as he quoted. He was the leader of General Henry Tumukunde, as he quoted. He was the leader also of Colonel Kizza Besigye. These were people who were under his tutelage at his prime when he was 30, 40. So if these people had the capacity and propensity to leave and deviate from his path, the first two often they would go and come back, and these two have cut the road and have said, I mean, I'm on that side and you're that side. So I think it's just overzealous officers who think that this is the way. But we've seen that people who have been, I mean, General Mjesha Muntu was at one time the CDF of this country, but he has drawn the line and moved away from the president. So pretending that this is what they are taught majorly, that you pay allegiance to the president, is somewhat a lie. And also the November riots, where 55 people plus were killed. It is a shame and it is a stain on the UPDF army, and the president apologized for that. He came through and acknowledged. But now the problem is, when you advance it as people are fighting for change, it is a lie. People are fighting for the freeing of a particular individual. So I think their priorities are misaligned.
But you see, that individual represents the urge of those Ugandans who want change, not so?
I would.
Let's just skip the conversation. Kojjo, you see, we can talk about the involvement of the army back and forth, because it is something that I think as young people we need to have more. Because we all of us need a peaceful transition. There are good things that this government has done for this country that are quite remarkable. We couldn't be freely speaking about these issues hadn't, of course, the current president with his Masawi would term them as rebels for us to make us freely talk about these conversations. But there's also need, we reach a time when we need to transition and move forward. You see, just like a few weeks ago we talked about the tribute to Raila. Just after the death of Raila is when people recognized his proper existence in Kenya. The young people have actually seen. When he was alive, they would say, oh, he's cutting deals with the president here and there. After his death, his impact started being felt. But let's just shift gears and talk about, one, NUP deciding to join IPOD. But before that, of course, as a transition, the issue behind commercialized politics. You see, we talk about the political landscape as it is today. Masawi talks about the cost, first of all, of electing leaders in this country being extremely high. You need approximately billions of shillings to go ahead and elect leaders. And you also have a huge cost in trying to maintain these leaders. But at the end of the day, who is being suffocated with taxes? Who is being suffocated to pay those debts? With the citizenry. Cost of commercialization of politics, Kojjo.
Thank you. So you see, Uganda has a problem that we have the biggest parliament. And it is not only big in numbers, but it also spending taxpayers' money. You find that that is more of the root cause of Uganda's problem. The parliament is big. It is representing so many people saying the same thing, acting like they are against each other. We saw it with the election of the speaker, whereby NUP had the biggest representation in parliament, but ended up someone of the opposite party being the speaker. And you find that it doesn't really work that way. You mentioned NUP's decision to join IPOD, right? It is not a decision as such. It is the law. When the law tells you to go right, if you want this, of course, you don't have to go left. You have to go right. And it is right, because the law says that they are supposed to join IPOD in order to receive the funding. So if they want their activities funded, they have to join IPOD. And still on the same thing of leadership, you mentioned people wanting change and a transition of power. But there is also a fear Ugandans have, right? Earlier in the discussion, we were talking about culture and ethnicity influencing leadership. And it is very true. You find that NUP, headed by Kyagulanyi and Bobi Wine, it is Buganda. As I was recently in Jinja, and I was talking to some old men, and I was asking them, why don't you support NUP? Like, aren't you guys tired of the same president? Because you guys are the adults. You've had 40 years with the same guy promising you the same things in a different language. Aren't you tired? Don't you need change? And their answer was very interesting, and it actually gave me perspective as a youth. And they were all like, it's not about us wanting change, or no, it's not about us not wanting change. It is what fears that change comes with. You find that NUP is mainly supported by the Buganda Kingdom, which from the beginning, it wanted a federal, federal, something like that. You find that if we are going to put a person in power who has this hand feeding it, what will they do? Like, won't they dismantle the entire system and collapse it to the very root of it? Won't they make Uganda government a federal system?
Don't go to have. I wouldn't like us to have that very sentimental conversation. Let me just hold you there. Let me hold you there, because that's a conversation that is very sensitive, and it has a lot of sentimental values that could trigger. So, Masawi, we are talking about commercialized politics and transitioning to NUP's decision to join the IPOD.
Drake, before I come to I'll go back to the other issue. In a country that has a president that has stayed 40 years in power, just like in Yaoundé, Cameroon this afternoon, those who are violently protesting vote rigging and him ruling them from France are being termed as violent, and they are being beaten. Because the man rules them is sick, he doesn't walk, but because he has refused on them, they are being beaten for them refusing him. The same case is like Uganda. This panel is a reflection of a country that has been led by a president for 40 years. There are those who are certain and there are us who are uncertain. So whenever people want to make it my responsibility to explain my uncertainty, being uncertain, even if we are few or what, it is not a problem. But those who are certain most times are because they have not felt the very way they would feel if they were somewhere else, which is not Uganda. So the whole issue about a captured country and a country that is free will depend on where you live in that society, where you're positioned, because there are classical theories that will position you somewhere that you will feel things are the way you see. Everybody will see depending on which angle they sit. Someone may see the elevation, someone may see the top view, the side view. So the panel is a reflection of children who have been born under one leader. So each one will discuss depending on how they ate food, where they went to study, what they feel, what they think, and is why it is the civic space TV. So coming back to the issue of
Commercialization.
the amendment that was made last year, pushed by the woman MP of NAPAC, to see that anybody who gets resources from IPOD is supposed to be both a member of the National Consultative Forum but also a member of IPOD. Previously, even if DC had withdrawn from IPOD but was a member of the National Consultative Forum and was getting funding, political parties are our property. As Ugandans, we all, even that NUP has been getting money. So you also have shares. It takes your taxes. Let them not look as if they are suffering. Saying when he uses fuel, has security, eats food, they pay him allowance. So political parties are naturally all our assets, irrespective of NRM or opposition. Just that in Uganda they are made to act like associations because the patron has too much power. So political parties themselves getting money and refusing is a lie. FDC had leaders of opposition who are being given budgets, who are being given cars, and when you come out with all this, you want to tell the population if someone else gets area, it's very bad. But for you, because you're doing it legitimately in the law, it is right. If so, and President Museveni likes beggars. If you're a beggar, then he likes a country full of beggars. Those who beg, because he makes the law limited to a few and majority be beggars. So for beggars to look or area, you got sick, you failed the bills, you got him for help. That one is a traitor now. But because the other one, there's one car office, he will ring fence to get benefits, is right. So the new law required someone to be a member of IPOD, which I expect that the Honorable Chagulanyi got a law degree. Some of these things now we can no longer judge him like Bobi Wine. We now judge him as a law student. That he needs to process them more faster than he was doing before he got a degree. So I expected that he would not again come back to the public to say
Crying
we
wolf.
did write an application, we are going to court. Like, well, yeah, you can go to court that it is their right, maybe it was done not in their favor. But if you've already accepted to have a member in parliament as a leader of opposition still getting money from government for his budget, then it is very difficult, because now Joel Sonyinyi's convoy escorts him in his convoy. Why doesn't he refuse it? He is having military men who are wearing counter-terrorism guarding him and vehicles by electoral commission. Why doesn't he refuse that? A country is made for everybody and everybody should benefit, but there should be accountability. The gross challenge of Uganda is ineffectiveness, is why we use too much money to get no results at all. Don't carry this that is NRM's problem. It is our problem, all of us equally. We are using too much energy to have no progress. Now they are protecting the gains. Protecting youth who have no jobs. Which gains are you protecting?
Yes.
Not in employment, not in training, not in education. Okay, peace, yeah, they will eat it, they will put on the plate and eat for supper. That is no problem. But the whole issue is that IPOD came as a law to see that, given where Chairman Mao fooled Uganda, Mao is the one person who has gone to Museveni and remained wise. He knew that the best way to now deal with the situation is getting people to table. Because Ugandans have already been given a perspective. Arabikane Museveni yalia. If Amri ato Mao Nandaro Basayi goes to greet Museveni, or Akolagana ne Museveni yalia, they use that to damage you and you're gone. Because they make people feel Museveni is very bad. That if someone greets him, he has gone.
Actually, when you look at NUP's entire campaign, when you go into their campaigns and watch those videos, you see that they base their entire campaign almost on discrediting their president and not telling Ugandans the way forward and how they are going to handle
because he's a very difficult man. You think they are going to be the first to ever challenge him and failed? Very many people have challenged him and failed. This is why we also fear him, that he's a very bad man. Don't think he's a man. But like I've told you, the law may have looked, but I've told you for this situation, they had initially withdrawn out of IPOD and remained Article 4 of the Political Parties and the Organizations Act requires all political parties to be members of the National Council. FDC had withdrawn and still remained the beneficiary of political funding from government. Now in the new law, everybody is required. So whenever we come here to say discriminatory, the whole issue is, if you don't want to benefit, change government and you say we shall be in government, our party will not receive money from government. But that discussion has, we like even reducing our levels of discussing serious, that you discuss something that the Secretary General is a lawyer, the party president is a graduate of law. It is very clear. But you still, the spokesperson is a lawyer, is an advocate now, I think.
For likes.
But because they know Ugandans are good to throw out something that has no logic and they waste their time there. Why they are even applying, and it is just remaining for DP and the Secretariat of IPOD to call them. But if Bobby Wine ate lunch, the country needs to discuss his lunch. If we wore glasses, they have to say the way I did by the new. I think Ugandans should carry their brains from discussing non-issues to things which are more important.
All right, Collins, we are fast out of time, but let's just quickly get, right now moving forward, your recommendations and concluding remarks. What really?
Actually, thank you. On adding what Mr. Ivan was putting across, I would want to quicken this by saying that the moment we shifted from referendum and we went for a multi-party system, the way to go is IPOD. However much you want, you have to be part of that. And why NUP was running away from it, they don't want to be accountable. Actually, as he said, they don't want to be accountable. I think from the time NUP has been in existence, I don't know whether they have ever tendered in their books of accounts to Electoral Commission.
No, they had the trick. They said they have no constitution. So as we file returns, other parties, them, they don't file their audited books. They say they have no constitution. They are wise.
The only thing that NUP is facing, it doesn't want to be accountable to Ugandans, to the people that they give ideas. As you say, I think NUP's ideas is not about where we're headed now. It's about their ruling party. As you say, they're always insulting and whatsoever. So I think in them wanting to insult and do whatsoever, they don't want to give accountability. And it's something that pains me as a lawyer to find the president of NUP is a lawyer, the general secretary is a lawyer, the spokesperson is a lawyer, and they have other lawyers who are inside there.
Even Katana, the
yes.
treasurer who has been getting
all of them are
money.
lawyers, and they have not embraced why this is happening. And as I said, Mao took the advantage to know why IPOD is there. And when you look at the mission of IPOD, it's democracy, good governance, accountability, cooperation, and maybe those capacity building. And those dialogues actually, nobody will tell you that for me why I went for a dialogue with Museveni to see how we can do the transition. And I think that would be maybe something that we should embrace, however much it's not working, but IPOD was the way to go for NUP. Generally, it's a way to go for NUP, so that we can now account, we can hold them accountable. We will need to know, because I've had people say, where do they get funds from?
No, government. In the old road, they have been getting 6.3 billion shillings.
Yes.
When you go to EC to beg for their audited books that they should give EC, they said they have no constitution, and in their constitution, they have not put anywhere where they need to give EC audit. But they got money.
Yes, you see what I'm saying? So, what NUP is trying to run away, majorly, is trying to run away from being accountable.
Yeah, so as you now sum up and give us your recommendations.
So, depending on what is taking place in the country right now, as every Ugandan, I would want maybe, in my quick recommendation, I would look at EC. In the first debate we began with, and in the time, EC should take a step that at least it should sensitize that civic education. We need it. I've seen these civic societies, the ones who are doing the role of EC. EC should come out itself, being independent, being not part of what is taking place, should come out and even maybe, I've not seen it happen in these deep areas. EC going there, sometimes these things end in boardrooms. They got Sheraton, they sit, read the roadmap of what they're going to do, each and everything, and it ends there. So I want EC to also take that initiative. Not only on TVs or radios, they go on the ground and do those civic educations. And lastly, I would want to let us know that being a good leader is not because I'm attached to it, but I can be a leader. And we used to have that saying, a leader is born, you're not made. You're not made. A leader is born. So political parties is like a groom, it's a hatchery. Sometimes people go there to be hatched out and maybe the leader not. So we can be a leader by birth, and we can be able to be everything.
Right.
Thank you very much, and I'm grateful for this.
Thank you. Kojjo, your concluding remarks.
Oh, thank you. So I would like to thank everyone who has participated in this very interesting conversation about the state of the nation. And I'd like to recommend to the voters, the youth, everyone who can vote, to make sure to participate in the election, to vote. There's a saying that says, vote so that the future generations will not ask you where you went wrong. So that, remember, as you're voting, you're the architect of the future. Like you're now molding something, you're building up something. Doesn't matter which political party you subscribe to, but vote the person into power and make sure you hold them accountable. Learn what they are supposed to do as they are in power. And for everyone who is participating in any position of leadership, please, you have been put there to serve a greater Uganda, for a greater future, not for you things of Katobu Luwama Nange Mundeke Ndieko. No, it's not a situation like that. We have reached a critical moment where we are stuck and stagnant, and we need a peaceful transition of power. Not only a peaceful transition of power, but we also need change, not only on paper, but also in actions. And those actions are not only going to start with the voters, but they're also going to start with the people we are voting into power. Like, as a voter, determine the person you're voting and see whether they will deliver what you really need to see in Uganda come 2031.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mbabazi. Your concluding remarks.
A quick one about the IPOD thing and NUP. Like my brother Masawi said or put it, that NUP had over 53 members of parliament in that house when the amendment on IPOD and the National Consultative Forum came through. But they did not take the time to think it through. They just wanted to wing people because they love the theatrics of it. And it is a question to the citizens of Uganda, is this the type of governance or alternative government? Because I see most of the people on this panel are fascinated with the idea of a transition. But the question is there not a leadership gap? And what are we moving from to what are we moving
can
to?
even happen from
Or-
within.
Alternatively,
Janet can become president if we silence someone from within.
and yeah, I agree with Masawi. Janet can become president. General MK can become president. Anyone can become
Transitions
president.
happen. Because the weaker one may come who is easier to remove when the other one was so strong.
So I think political parties in Uganda have been consumed with Musevenism, the individual, not the system that keeps him in power. And that is what Bobby Wine runs on, the fascination with a man. And he forgets the system that keeps him in place, and he should do whatever he should do, to fight it. So in conclusion, one of the most, there's a book called A Parliament of Alls by Sidang. It would be a very nice read for Ugandans in reference to their parties. But also Gandhi says that people often vote the quality. We have a proportional presentation. The people vote the type of people that represent them. And Thomas Jefferson and Carl Sagan always say that the ability of a state to move is that it relies on the skepticism of its citizens. Yeah. So if the citizens don't ask these questions, if they want chidandari and bandwagon thinking and relegating their brains to their toilets and moving with empty coconuts, this is the stagnation, because we suffer in our families and relationships. Currently in Uganda, it's all over. We call it the national cake, because the people who come before us don't offer accountability. So if we're going to carry those same brains to run parties and nations and our future, then we are in the deep of things. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we sign us up.
I think, Drake, you've seen the difference. People who are highly reading like him are suffering. Because those who don't read think it is obvious. Things should be like the way they are. People who are reading like him now know that you need to move with your brain. But those who think things are ordinary, they tell them, put them up, your hand, you will raise, they will tell you, stand there, you will stand. They will tell you whatever, you will be on remote control. So, Drake, the whole essence of human life is for people to realize their potential. And it should also be the whole essence of politicians and leaders across the world. People tap into the potential of their existence in their generation. The reason I like challenging government is not that because I'm also not challenging, or that they are so good or they are not perfect or imperfect. Is that everybody will have a composition of good, but there is a bad which you weigh depending on how much does it affect someone from rising. The reason why people discuss Museveni is because of how much disempowered the citizens are compared to those in power. Whenever we have a very big disparity, for example, even between a salary of an MP and a primary teacher, we reduce the quality of our discussions. We make someone else to be more comfort, and we create a lot of discomfort down. The whole issue why we come here to argue is we want a country working for everybody equally. And that is what is lacking. The challenge, when we see one family is in another island and this one is all in the sea, crocodiles, sharks have eaten people's feet and what? It causes alarm and the kind of noise that will come out of us whenever someone slaps you, show that there is a great disparity of people realizing their potential because of the great disappearance of government in people's lives, on governments in saying people, it supports people realize their potential, but also the environment itself. We should agree or refuse that the responsibility of creating an environment where we want to thrive is for all of us. Is why I reminded you that whenever you see borrowing, you organize your call knowing we shall pay together, whether you ate or you never ate. Yes.
Thank you. It's been a very interesting conversation, gentlemen and lady. I think it's always fascinating when we talk about issues of governance and constitutionalism. But it's also very interesting to see that we as young people, I think, further, we need to interrogate this question of transition. Yeah, further, and we need to understand it. Even though the sentiments that arise, such as what Kojjo was talking about in terms of federalism and all those ethnic lines, I think this continuous dialogues is always important, and I think that also informs the idea behind uh, Norbert Mao siding with the president to have these conversations. But I think our generation, we need to also have a different cause for ourselves. Just like the current president had their cause for a better Uganda post-independence, I think it's also imperative that we, first of all, informed our minds, but continually hold these conversations. And of course, just like Masawi, get in positions of power. I think at that point we shall be in position to influence and bring the change that we want. Otherwise, thank you, Collins. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Kojjo. Thank you, Mbabazi, for joining us in this conversation. I personally have loved it. And to you, our dear viewers, for religiously following the Youth Roundtable. It's been interesting. Thank you to the production crew, Malcolm and Brittany, for making this possible, and to the Center for Constitutional Governance for bringing the show to you. Don't forget to subscribe and watch the channel. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.